Welcome to CyberWise Tech. This week, instead of chasing headlines, we are going to do something more useful. Examine what actually failed and why it failed, and what these incidents quietly teach us about real world security maturity. Every incident you will see today maps directly to recognized security controls because security is not news driven, it's system driven. Let's talk about the first one, which is a major ransomware attack on healthcare provider. This incident involved a large healthcare network, but the pattern is painfully familiar. The attack didn't start with a ransomware. It started with an unpatched VPN appliance, a small, boring detail that quietly became a big operational crisis. The impact wasn't just encryption files, it was cancelled appointments, delayed patient care, and reputational damage that lasts longer than the outage itself. The lesson here is simple. Attacker don't need sophistication when basic hygiene is missing. From a control perspective, this maps directly to continuous vulnerability management and secure remote access, NIST Cybersecurity Frameworks protection controls, and ISO 27001 control. I have given the description here also, which you can see on your screen, that why these controls need to be very minutely followed, because for you it could be an thing that you may not need to follow. It's a very small thing. What will happen if you don't? So these things happens when you don't, because even your smaller breach or smaller vulnerability is the biggest advantage to the attackers. Now next one is supply chain breach via software update. So this one is a reminder that trust is no longer binary, it's conditional. A trusted software update carried malicious code downstream into customers' environment. The organization wasn't breached directly, it was breached by proxy. The root cause was not an exotic malware here. It was weak supplier security validation and insufficient code integrity checks. The weak third party risk governance was also responsible, and there were inefficient supply chain security controls. The lesson what we learn here is third party risk is first party risk. Controls like secure SDLC practices, code signing, and supplier assurance clearly defined in both NIST CSF and ISO 27001 ask us to apply these controls and these governance items, and these are operational necessities. Cloud storage misconfiguration exposes data. So, this breach didn't involve hacking in the traditional sense. Data was exposed because the cloud storage bucket was simply open. No zero day, no nation state actor, just misconfigured permission combined with a lack of continuous visibility. The impact, however, is very real. PII exposure and regulatory attention that startup can rarely afford. The lesson here is important. Cloud security failures are governance failure, not cloud failure. This maps cleanly to the configuration monitoring and access control governance in both NIST uh, control, which is PR.PT3, and ISO 27001 A.8.3 control. Phishing campaign bypasses multi-factor authentication. This incident shows us that MFA is not a silver bullet. Employees were targeted with MFA fatigue attacks, endless push notification until someone clicked approve just to make it stop. The root cause wasn't the absence of MFA, it was the wrong kind of MFA combined with insufficient user awareness. The impact included email compromise and lateral movement inside the organization. The lesson is uncomfortable but necessary. Security system must account for human behavior, not assume perfection. Phishing resistance, MFA, and structured awareness training both are clearly addressed in NIST CSF and ISO 27001 controls, as you can also see on your screen. So basically, the learning here is technology without human awareness is fundamentally fragile. Insider threat and DDoS attack. So this incident of insider threat didn't involve malware or external attackers. An employee with excessive access quietly exfiltrated customer data before leaving the organization. The root cause was overprivileged access and absence of behavioral monitoring. The impact is severe because insider breaches feels like betrayal to customer and regulators alike. The lesson is trust is not a control, governance is. Least privilege enforcement and user activity monitoring are well established control in both frameworks of ISO and NIST CSF. You can also see it on the screen. The next one on the same slide is DDoS attack on online services. This attack targeted availability, not data. The sustained DDoS overwhelmed an online education platform, causing prolonged outages during peak usage. The root cause was straightforward: no traffic filtering, no rate limiting, no resilience planning. The impact was immediate revenue loss and long term credibility damage. The lesson is often forgotten. Availability is a core security objective, not just a performance concern. So I also have a full video series on ISO 27001, and the basic principle of any security control is to protect confidentiality, integrity and availability. So availability is a core security objective. Control related to network resilience and capacity management are explicitly also covered in NIST CSF and ISO 27001 both. API security breach. So this breach happened because APIs were treated like internal tools instead of production systems. Unauthenticated endpoints were exposed, and attackers simply pulled data at scale. The root cause was missing authentication and poor asset inventory. The impact was mass data extraction, quite fast and damaging. The lesson: if it's exposed to the internet, it's part of your attack surface, no exceptions. API access control and asset managements are foundational control in both NIST CSF and ISO 27001. The critical lesson here is APIs are production system, not developer shortcuts. Treat them with same security rigor as any public facing application. Credential stuffing attack. This incident leveraged leaked credentials from previous breaches, not a breach of this company's system directly. Attackers automated login attempt at scale, exploiting password reuse. The root cause was weak bot detection and limited authentication anomaly monitoring. The impact was widespread account takeover and customer frustration. The lesson is pragmatic. Users will reuse password. Designing security that assumes otherwise is optimistic, not realistic. Detection and secure authentication controls, especially anomaly detections, are clearly defined in both framework for this exact reason. This one and this one. The incident which we see on the screen is related to the OT and ICS malware targeting manufacturing organizations. This incident hits close to home for any industrial environment. Malware entered an ICS network due to insufficient segmentation between IT and OT systems. The root cause wasn't sophisticated ICS malware, it was architectural convergence which without adequate controls. The impact goes beyond downtime. In OT, security incidents can have safety implications. The lesson is critical. OT security is business continuity. Network segmentation and controlled accesses are both directly mapped to NIST CSF and ISO 27001. Delayed breach detection. This breach wasn't devastating because of how it started, but because of how long it went unnoticed. Logs existed, but no one was watching them. There was no effective detection capability. The impact was months of silent data leakage. This lesson is blunt: detection speed defines breach cost. Continuous monitoring and proper log management. Go to both NIST CSF and ISO 27001. Incident pattern analysis. So let's analyze all these incidents which we just discussed and what's common in them. because this week incident reveals reoccurring themes that demand strategic attention from the security leaders. The first one is basic control gaps, like unpatched systems, misconfigured cloud resources, and missing authentication mechanism. Fundamentals matters more than advanced tools. The next common thing which we saw in all the incident was governance blind spots, supply chain security, API management, and third party risk oversight, which has required structured governance framework, not ad hoc processes. Then detection delays. So if you have logs, if you have everything, but if no one is monitoring it, it's of no use. Convergence challenge. ITOT convergence, cloud adaptation, and API proliferation create new attack surfaces that traditional security models fails to address adequately. Okay, coming to the end of the slide, a strategic takeaway from this lesson is cybersecurity incidents are rarely caused by advanced attackers alone. Most breaches succeed due to basic control gap, governance blind spots, and delayed detection. Sophisticated threat exploit fundamental weaknesses. So please take action as leaders. Make sure you are having detection capabilities, you are strengthening your governance framework, and closing the fundamental control gaps. Thank you so much for watching this video.